Imagine being a triple threat bestseller who writes stories about people brave enough to break the rules and most recently has stepped into the vital new role as a perimenopause content creator. Andi Osho is an award-winning actor you've seen in everything from Blue Lights to Sandman and to Sex Education. And she is a true powerhouse who has mastered the art of evolution. Andi is on a mission to ensure that no woman, especially Black women who are too often left out of the conversation, enters this season of life without the information, wellness solutions, and vitality she deserves. We're diving into creativity, the lessons found in rejection, and what it really means to navigate by heart once you hit the big 5-0. What I love about Andi is that I met her in about 2018. We were both at a Marianne Williamson retreat in Los Angeles, and you have the most gorgeous heart, Andi. You are a beautiful, grounded, real heart on legs. I loved having time with you. And here we are nearly
Oh,
10 years later, and I'm excited that we're still connected. And yeah, I love that I'm here to chat to you today on the podcast. So welcome.
thank you so much. And I've got to say, like, it was just such a gift to meet you at that program because, you turn up at these things, you're on your own. I mean, that's what I did anyways. And I think you did too.
Same, yeah.
And you don't know how it's going to go. And I think we connected, like, it must
Right.
have been on day one,
Day
right?
one, yeah. So we ended up having lunches and things together. I had no idea that you were a famous actor in the UK. I'm really sorry
Oh,
about that, but I had no bloody idea because we don't see your
well,
shows down here. I love that you were just a gorgeous soul and I loved my time with you. And but you're really cranking things right now and been um evolving. So I want to dive into tons of stuff today. Let's go. You ready?
sure.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's
All
do it.
right. Let's go. So you've transitioned from that kind of high stakes world of acting, which is still acting. However, you've also got best-selling novels and you're becoming a passionate, or you're not becoming, you are a passionate advocate in the perimenopause space. So you are, like I said, you are a heart-led woman. What was there a moment that said, it's time for me to step into this arena?
You mean specifically around the
Yeah,
perimenopause
let's talk
conversation?
perimenopause since most of our women listening are perimenopause and menopause. And or
Well,
acting. Let's play the game. Tell me about Andy.
well, the perimenopause part of my world, it just, I don't know, I felt compelled in that direction, partly because it was what I was going through, but also because it was something that I didn't feel like we were well educated on at all. Not that I'm putting myself out there as the educator, I'm just sharing my experiences. And if I've discovered something that worked for me and that it might potentially work for other people, I'm just sharing it with that context. Because I feel like, there's a lot of folks who give expertise but aren't experts. So I don't want to,
Yeah,
fall into that
especially
trap.
nowadays with social media.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
Yeah, you're just
so
keeping it real.
yeah, but that's it. It's just like this is what I've been going through because it's a lot. Like I hadn't anticipated when it first started. Now I look back in hindsight, there was it's a mild creep, isn't it? It doesn't necessarily broadside you straight away.
Yeah.
And then my symptoms just ramped up, sort of, I would say probably 2 or 3 years ago. And yeah, now I've got a sort of equilibrium. That's what's compelled me to speak up and just share whatever I can that will be of value to younger women, to have Black women feel like they're included, so that people know that what they're going through isn't just them, or younger women know what's coming, because it's like I don't want anyone to be in the position that I was.
Yeah.
But I have to say, Jen, I've got to tell you that after I listened to your TED talk, which is brilliant. And I could feel the energy radiating from you through the screen. It made me, I just started thinking, like, what is the evolutionary or, sociological reason for this menopause? And I think that what you've been talking about since we met and you talked about in that TED talk is exactly it. It's women of a certain age being unencumbered by the need for reproduction and therefore like stepping into this kind of wisdom or something that will ultimately benefit not just women of that age, but all of society. So it's almost going to
Yeah,
be an act of service growing into this to,
absolutely.
for us to find our strength and our and own the space, the space that we're growing into. But that thought came to me after listening to your TED talk, because I was like, she's onto something there. It can't be just about stopping your periods and, having achy joints. That can't be what it's about. There must be something
No,
physiological that's coming from this.
it is. And it really is meant to happen. And if you, and I'm not into conspiracy theories, but I find it really, really interesting. So we are meant to, it's a natural progression. And I learned about
Mm,
this in my 20s, like I talked about in the TED talk.
mm,
So we're meant to, drop the estrogen, which is what these lines on our top lip means.
mm-hmm,
I'm barren. So my ovaries have shriveled up. That's all
mm-hmm,
meant to be. So women go and put
hmm.
Botox in. It's like, yeah, but that's just, it's a sign that I'm barren. That's normal. So, but it's meant to happen. And we do. We care less. However, we care deeper. Now, I worry at the moment where they're doing even the doctor said to me, hey, just take estrogen. I went, I'm not meant to have estrogen at this time in my life. And it's
Mm.
also not, it's meant, this is meant to be. And a big part of it is that when the estrogen is so high, we care about everyone else, but we
Mm.
don't stand in our power. We're still in that nurture phase, not the save the world phase. And so with them all of a sudden really pushing that in such a big way, even more so
Gosh,
than
that's
ever,
interesting.
I
Uh,
think it keeps women down, that you're not going to stand in your power the same way if your hormones are in a different place. And that's a whole different topic than what we were going to talk about today. However, I find that really interesting as a practitioner and as a woman who's gone through that phase. Andy, you will feel it. There is a difference, not age number wise, but from 40s to 50s and into 60s, you will feel it in your cells. You stand differently. Your hormones are different. Now, if we keep giving women estrogen and keeping that high to keep strong bones and all that kind of shit versus just eat healthy, exercise, do all the things and still keep strong bones and heart
mm,
and everything anyway. But
mm.
we keep them back in mother phase, not wise woman phase. Mm,
That is so interesting. I never thought of that.
it's it worries me. I think
Mm,
it's another control thing. But
mm.
that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
But something
wow.
for you to contemplate as an emerging. Well, you are a fucking wise woman anyway. But I find it interesting. It is a natural progression, and I promise you can be as strong and fit and healthy as you want. And it's just a transition as your body settles into this space, and it's your
Yeah,
adrenal glands that decides how quick you settle into this space because that's where your
right.
androgens are produced. That's something to look at.
I
Yeah.
think that what's interesting as well about this period, and it also sort of connects with what you've just said, is that society is still so enamored by youth.
Ugh,
And whilst there are the health benefits that they talked about with HRT and the things that it can help with in the body, some of it is about, I would say, an unwillingness to let go of being youthful
yeah.
and being something else,
Yeah.
which is, Marianne Williamson, she did an online workshop and she talked about grief around getting older, becoming an older woman. And I think we don't really talk about that
Mm,
enough, about, and the grief isn't about there being something wrong with aging or becoming older, but just about the transition of you are not that person anymore, that you are
no.
not capable of the things that that person could do. However, you are capable of other things if you would embrace those riches.
Yeah. And we're not meant to look like our 30-year-old daughters at this age. We're not. We're not meant to look that younger. And you look
Mm,
at I see pictures of women in their 70s and 80s, and they're wrinkled. They are spectacularly
yeah,
beautiful. There's a
yeah,
radiance about them. It's like, oh, it's amazing. And yet, yeah, who's saying society, media, and stuff is saying that we should look wrinkle free and things?
yeah. It's so strange, and it's
Oh, it's a
almost like
strange
it feels
countenance.
like it is, and it's almost feels like there's a sort of a division with women who want to do the work, put the work have work done on their faces and stuff, and women that are comfortable with their natural appearance,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a really strange thing to see how normalized puffy features
Yeah.
basically
Yes.
become.
It is. Yeah. And
And it
yeah.
used to be
And
an anomaly and people didn't talk about it. And now it's become, and it's not that anyone should be ashamed of
no,
this.
and
And I'm not
everyone's
trying to
right to
body
choose
shame,
if
but
they choose it.
exactly. But you've
What's
got to question
driving?
like what's exactly what is the thought behind that? What are you not wanting about yourself that you feel like
Or what are you being
injecting poison
told?
or toxin? Yes, yes,
Yeah. What
yes.
do you, yeah, that you're putting poison and toxins in your body. But who and what's telling you that? Is it the guys
Yeah.
want the chicks to look young? Is it the guys, telling women that they're going to be put on the shelf, whatever, if they don't have all that, wrinkle-free face? I don't know. But it's
Well,
it's
I wouldn't
interesting.
want to. It is really interesting because it would be easy to say that it's men messaging this, but women do it to each other as well. So it's society. It's
True.
not even just one group or
True.
another.
Yeah.
Society does it to itself, to its women. And, because you could equally be shamed by another woman for looking a bit old,
Oh, you
or
can
you
be.
look good for your
Women can be
age,
vicious with
those
this.
types of things.
Yeah, I know.
They're supposed to sound like compliments.
Yeah. It's an interesting little time.
Yeah. It
All
is.
right, so let's jump in. Let's keep going. So you mentioned you're committed to keeping Black women in the perimenopause conversation. What specific barriers and things are silencing them, do you think? Where are they missing out on the information that bloody whiteys like me aren't? Although we miss out on it too, but I'm curious. What's the
Well, I think,
difference you
yeah,
see?
I think that generally a lot of women, not even specifics around race, are not getting the healthcare that they need. They're getting diagnosed, for example, with antidepressants when actually perhaps what they need is, or what could be diagnosed for them is, prescribed for them is systemic HRT if they're candidates for it and if that's what they want. Then specifically with Black women, they're there's been a lot of studies around this where pain isn't taken as seriously, symptoms might be dismissed, doctors not being aware that certain perimenopause symptoms show up differently with Black and brown women, sometimes more acutely, all those sorts of things. So, and that's not even just pertaining to the perimenopause. In they did a study and they found that Black mothers are more likely to die in childbirth. This is just in the UK. I don't know about stats elsewhere, but they're more likely to die in childbirth. And it's because, I mean, even Serena Williams, one of the most famous women in the world, had her pain dismissed when she was in labor, and there was, complications with the labor with her daughter. So, and also, there's a lot of products now coming out in terms like supplementation for, targeting perimenopause women. And often you'll see that the marketing is presenting a certain type of woman. Now, that often means excluding Black and brown women, as though there's only one type
Really?
of woman having,
Mm.
yeah, having this experience. And it's those sorts of things that really grind my gears because it's just like, look, if you're going to do that, then these women are going to start taking their spending power elsewhere. And we're going to start, having that conversation amongst ourselves. Like, look, who are the brands that include us, who see us, who realize that we're going through this as well?
Yeah.
So,
Fucking hell,
so
it's all
that's really
women.
my, yeah. So
Mm.
that's where I'm looking at the situation from is that
Yeah.
I want the space that I'm creating to be inclusive for all women, and I think it is. But because I'm Black, that's hopefully allowing Black women who are experiencing this to feel seen because I'm
Yeah.
speaking about it and
Yeah.
speaking about it to everybody and speaking about it without any sort of fear or shame or, anything like that around it because it shouldn't be, but it has been for so long.
Yeah. All right.
Grr.
I can grow on that one. Ha! So look, wherever you're listening from this, if you're on YouTube or whether you're on the podcast platforms, it doesn't matter. Have a look below, and I've got all the links to Andy's socials and everything, so you can follow her. Because I love how you're showing this, how you're showing up and being real about it, and it's bringing a different conversation than my pracky brain tries to bring to things. So thank you for
No,
doing
but
what
I
you're
think
doing.
it's all. it's all a balance, isn't it? Because I'm following a bunch of different people who are offering different things, and I think that's what gives you a wealth of understanding, isn't it? Is if some people are approaching it through medicine, some people are doing it through natural remedies, some people are just having a laugh about it and trying to just put a smile on your face and joking about brain fog, so a mix of all of that will
Mm.
give a broad understanding. And then, people gravitate to the voices that probably most align with them,
All
don't
them?
they?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. All right. So we talk a lot on this show about refusing to disappear. I want women to stand their power and just get more visible, like I said in my
Mm,
TED talk. So, how has turning 50 changed your perspective on how visibility in the industry as an actor,
mm.
and in your personal life? How's that experience been for you?
This is really interesting. I had a sort of a moment of clarity about this because obviously there's that narrative that, once you're a woman of a certain age, you feel invisible, you feel not seen. And I started to experience that. And I was like, oh, they talked about this. They told us about it. They told us this would happen. Um, and then I realized that, and I'm not saying this is what other women are doing, but I realized for myself that I was disappearing myself. I was shrinking. I was just wearing what was practical because who cares anyways, and all those sorts of things. So I was actually participating in this disappearing of Andy. And and also you obviously I was thinking about who am I worried about disappearing from for or whatever, you know what I mean? And obviously as a straight woman, the male gaze has been part of your thinking for a really long time. So it's like I'm like, oh, maybe that doesn't matter, but maybe I can just undisappear myself for me. And that made yeah. So when it was for me, that made an enormous difference. And I've started to really lean into enjoying decorating this being, like where just finding fashion and clothes and give myself a lovely home and doing those things because they're there to be done. And why should I disappear? But not because of somebody else's gaze, but for my own sense of self-worth and taking up space.
100%. Yeah, as much as it's kind of society says we become invisible, that's what I say in my TED talk. We've continued it. And it's time for us, as women to make ourselves not visible, as you say,
That's
for
it.
ourselves.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So you've had a massive career in TV and film. What has a lifetime of rejection? Because I have to imagine you pitch for different gigs and get knockbacks. What's that actually taught you about resilience and self-worth? Because it must,
Gosh.
I think you're really fucking cool. Do you get every
Oh,
gig that you
bless
pitch for? I don't know the
I
acting
wish I
world.
did.
I'm not an actor.
Oh, I wish. Yeah, I mean, gosh, there is a lot of rejection, and I think I want to say it gets easier, and in some ways it does, but in some ways it doesn't because if you really care about a particular job, there's some jobs that you're kind of like, this one's for the bank manager. But there's some jobs that, from an artistic perspective, just creatively, you really, really want. I would love to get my teeth into that one. And then when you don't get it, that hurts. And that hasn't changed over the 23 years that I've been a creative. But I think what I've learned is that I remind myself this won't hurt in a week's time. Like and sure as eggs is eggs, you sort of forgotten about it a couple of weeks later. Because the mindset I have is I didn't have it before, I don't have it now, so nothing's changed. So I'm not actually worse off by not getting this job. It would have been great to get it. That would have been the change. This is just exactly where I was before, but now I've made a contact out of that casting director. If I've done a good job in the tape, then they'll think of me for something else in the future. In acting, the saying goes, win the room, not the job. I think you should try and win both actually. But if you win the room, that means that the casting director at some point in the future will go, God, I remember Andy. She did a really good tape. She wasn't right for that, but let's bring her in for something else. And you never know.
I love that. I've never thought of it thinking about it like that. That's cool. Thank you.
I think it
Mm.
probably applies to anything where you've got to go in and pitch basically
Yeah,
and to a decision maker because if you can I don't know, say you're looking to be a supplier for a new store or something like that. If you can win them over, you don't know when that no that they may ultimately give you will turn into a yes. So I think that win the room, not the job, is probably applicable across the board for anybody that's sort of, I guess, entrepreneurial,
yeah. Yeah, because we're
which acting
constantly,
is as well.
yeah, it is. So you're an author. And speaking about rejection, like I've written my first novel and I've always self-published all my books.
Oh,
And I've,
wow.
I've written a novel about the wise woman and I have been pitching it to publishers.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, learning that.
Say no more.
Because I'm used to, pitch for speaking gigs and all those kind of things, but I'm in a different arena now. So, your most recent novel, Most Wanted, it involves a
Yes.
couple of breaking rules to get on the property ladder. What do you think that rule breaking spirit is? Do you think that kind of rule breaking spirit is something women need to embrace as they hit midlife? Asks the inner rebel in me.
Yes, of course. But with Most Wanted, it's not going to go well for them. But I do think that in life, it is important for women to really just take up space and not follow the rules as they need to be, as or not follow the rules in a way that they probably think they should. Um, It's been so many times, like in meetings and things like that, where I've wanted to say something, even if it's just asking a question, and just felt like, oh, I shouldn't. I don't want to draw attention to myself. So even just those assumptions that women are quiet or whatever, like we've just got to just set them aside and just start taking up room because I think the more, given what I was saying earlier about how women can ultimately the wise women can be a gift to society. I think the more that women start to get used to that feeling in their earlier years, I think the easier it will be to just transition to it and make the planet a better place. I think that's where it has to be an evolutionary thing, like where humanity just needs this to happen. And I think that's what it is. So the more women can get used to rule breaking and not following the rules and speaking up and taking space, the better.
Yeah, agree. So tell us about Most Wanted. What made you write? Oh, she's going to show us a picture for those playing along on YouTube. You can now see the cover of Andy's new book.
Huzzah!
Most,
And for those just listening, I'm going to
tell us
describe
about
how
it.
gorgeous it is. Well, I mean, that it's funny because with covers, there's always a lot of backwards and forwards about design and stuff like that. And so even this blue, so for those just listening, it's sort of got this royal blue background with the most wanted in big orange letters with the white shadow on it, and even all of those sorts of things take so long to backwards and forwards with the editors trying to decide what's best gonna um, demonstrate kind of what the book is about in its essence kind of thing. So it's quite, yeah, you just think you've finished writing a book and then you go through all of these
Then all that
processes.
starts.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally.
yeah. Yeah, but it's fun though. So Most Wanted is about a couple, Jake and Naya, who are desperate to buy their dream home, but they at every turn they're just thwarted, and so they cook up this ridiculous plan or plot that if they start a crime wave in their area, it will tank house prices and they'll finally be able to afford to get on the ladder. So,
How the hell
yeah,
did you think of that?
I know it's madness, isn't it? So basically, I was where I am now. It took me 5 years to find. I didn't know that this is the place I was looking for, but I thought it would be very straightforward. I was living in northeast London, a place called Walthamstow, and Walthamstow is a funny little area in the sense of 20 years ago, no one was really talking about Walthamstow. And then a few, smart buyers, they bought flats, they started buying houses, and slowly the area became quite a cool place to live. It's still kind of a bit rough and ready, but it became now house prices have just skyrocketed in Walthamstow. And that's where I was trying to buy. So every time I went for something, the prices of that type of property just went up a little bit beyond what I could afford, and it just kept happening. And I was like, why does everyone want to live in Walthamstow? Forgetting that I'm
You
everybody
want to live
trying to live
there.
in
You're
exactly.
part of the
It's like
problem.
when people are in traffic, it's like, why is there so much traffic? It's like you are traffic. But yes, and then I just thought to myself, well, it's just all perception, isn't it? People only want to live in Walthamstow because they've got this perception that it's cool. What would tarnish the perception of Walthamstow? Crime. And obviously, I stopped at actually starting a crime wave, but I thought that would make a really interesting story of these two jokers who, middle class, completely hapless, who decide we're going to become like petty criminals to tarnish the area just so that they can buy a property. Because I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in the UK, the housing market is kind of crazy.
Insane.
Like, yeah,
Insane.
yeah, it's insane. So like in Walthamstow, we're still talking like northeast London, so it's not the most affluent part of London, but you can pay £1 million for a terrace in this area. Yeah, sure, the loft has been converted and stuff, but you're
That's
still
2
in
million Aussie dollars.
right.
Yeah.
And that's absurd. And even the people in Walthamstow think that that's absurd. And I think the big issue is not necessarily the price tag, but the fact that wages aren't going up in line with how much property prices are increasing. And
Yes,
so
they
you've got
do.
this issue where young people are literally just giving up on the idea of being able to own their own home. But equally, we've created a society. It happened sort of when Margaret Thatcher sold off loads of. We had a lot of council houses here, and she sold them to. She gave people the right to buy them, which was great because it got people on the housing ladder. But it also created a brand new market now where, a lot of homes that were like social housing are now privately owned. And so young people now, like two generations on since that happened, are like, where's our right to buy? You know what I mean? Or where's our help from the government to be able to get on the ladder? All they're looking at is having to get mortgages that are like five, six, seven times the, well, I mean, you can't even get a 6 or 7 times mortgage, but that's the differential between what they're earning and how much some properties are. So they've just given up and they're like living with their mums and dads, or they've just decided they're going to be long-term renters. And I just felt like that was unfair, and I wanted to say something about that
Mm.
without preaching, So the book is really like more pointing to the desperation rather than coming up with solutions.
And you've played a copper in your acting roles. Was that any research for the book? I just thought of that.
It's funny, yeah. Well, the person who is on the tail of these two is actually a council worker because when I was putting the story together, I was going to make her like a community police officer, but I thought as soon as you have a police officer involved, they've got quite a lot of power, even if they're, just more of a community body. So I thought, let me make her be like a council worker who wanted to join the police, but actually is just in charge of giving people tickets for littering and do you know what
Oh
I mean?
God, I
And
love
like
it. I love it.
so she's sort of curtailed by the fact that she's literally got no power, but she just suspects that something's not quite right with all this random graffiti that started popping up in the area and stuff like that. But you say about research and stuff, I still, because I was shooting Blue Lights and writing Most Wanted, so I organized, or I requested to go on a police ride along.
Ooh,
Yeah,
cool.
so
Good
the
one.
Met Police, yeah, it was really fun. The Met Police, who are the police service for the Greater London area, they offer this ride along scheme. So anybody can just apply, and you spend 8 hours in the back of a police car with these officers. And I thought this is perfect. And I was like, so guys, tell me, tell me about what happens when you arrest somebody. Tell me about, I was just asking them all questions, partly for Blue Lights, but also for the book. So it was like perfect research research resource for both.
Oh, they would have loved that too. That's so cool.
Well, they were largely unimpressed, if I'm honest, Jen. Yeah, they weren't that bothered. Like when I was in, so when I arrived at their depot where all the sort of response officers are sort of dispatched from, I was sitting in their kind of rec room, and I had the sort of high vis vest on that they give, like community observers, I think they write it, and I thought someone will recognize me from blue lights. Not a peep. No one gave. Nobody cared. Like I was sitting there, like, and they're just like,
Me, I
no.
play a copper.
Yeah, don't you recognize me? Don't you think I'm one of you? Because didn't care, did
Oh,
not care.
poo.
But it was kind of cool in a way because you're just like, I just want to, you know, do what I've come to do, which is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
8 hours
Observe.
of research, basically.
Yeah, wow. All right. So do you narrate your audiobook? Because I'm an audiobook.
Yes.
Shit, excellent. Can't wait.
Are you? Amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I like
so
audiobooks.
Oh, yeah, I love doing the audiobook because I've already been imagining all these characters in my head. So
Good
a lot
nights.
of the characters I have already kind of been rehearsing their voices as I've been reading. Because I don't know if you do the same with your novel, but I like to every now and again just have a read through of the whole thing, hear it out loud, just because you can hear things that aren't quite right that you can't when you're just reading it off the page.
Yes. Yeah, very much. It's different. I love it. Can't wait. You're next on the list now that it's out. That's really cool.
Hey.
So you're in perimenopause, you're writing books, you're acting, creative blocks, some women with their brain fog and all that kind of stuff. How did you
Sure.
maintain that kind of flow during perimenopause to write?
Um, I mean, it was tricky because there was pre-realizing that I need to do something about it, where I was just trying to sort of just push through. And so with my second book, Tough Crowd, I remember writing that and just struggling with just reading the book. Like the words were just bouncing around on the page. And I think in hindsight, I think that may be some sort of resurfaced ADHD or something like that, where just the focus was really, really difficult. And then on top of that, the brain fog, where I would, be writing and working on story halfway through the book and forget what was in the beginning. And obviously, a lot of writing is about setting stuff up.
Mm,
So, you want to get to sort of the midpoint and pay off something that you've set up at the beginning, or in the midpoint, you want to set up something that's going to happen later on in the book. And I was just forgetting, oh, I have to go back. Well, did I say that already? Oh my God, yes, I did. Wait, did I say that already? You know what I mean? Like just that constantly. So, and then on set, I was noticing that I was really struggling with memorization with lines. Some lines were easy, but like with anything procedural, you can get a lot of technical jargon. And so when it was anything policey, I was just like, even if it was really simple, oh my gosh, I was all over the place. And that got to the point where I had to say to one of the directors, like, just so you know, I am learning my lines or trying to, but I'm going through something. And I told him, and he was so understanding. His wife was experiencing the same thing, so he was fully aware of what it looks like and how it can affect you. And he was just, when someone really gets you, just shares something, you just want to cry because they've understood.
Cry and give a hug. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
exactly. So it was a bit like that. So, but yeah, he was lovely, and the same thing happened again this season as well. But I just had to say, look, there's some things going on, and thankfully, I had both times very understanding directors. But yeah, it is a thing. It's not like the creativity, for me, anyways. It's not like the creativity wasn't coming. It was just all trying to manage it. I didn't have the sort of mental capacity to manage it in a way that I previously had.
Mm, interesting. So if you could go back to your pre-perimenopause, go back in your 30s, 40s, because you're right, we're not educated about this as women. We don't know that it's a
Mm.
natural transition. What would you say to her, you 10, 15 years ago?
She wouldn't listen.
Are you right? We
She wouldn't
don't.
listen.
Oh my God, we don't.
Because Jen, look, there's a bunch of things I could say to her, but she would not listen. Um, I mean, I think apart from alcohol, I think I've been pretty healthy. There's been definitely indulgences, but I think for the most part, I've been pretty healthy. I and I do wonder if those 20s and 30s are about taking life right to the extremes. Like, if you say
Living
to
life,
somebody, yeah, yeah, basically,
really
if you
living it.
say to someone in their 20s or early 30s, listen, you want to cut down on alcohol because, this is the effect of no drugs as a young person because, right, maybe, exactly. And maybe those years are exactly about that because when I hit 50, I had this sort of moment of clarity again of like, oh, you are actually going to die. We are going to die. That's prior to that, I had lived like I was immortal. Obviously, logically death is going to happen. But I think when you're in your 20s and 30s, it's just so abstract. But when you get to 50 and you've got aging parents and you yourself have got aching knees, you go, oh, this is real. And I feel like that's starting to get into the last opportunity you've got to be preventative in terms of how you look after yourself. And so that's something that the perimenopause has given me. But I've got there because I'm actually going through something. It's not an abstraction, it's real. Whereas if you explain all that to a 30-year-old, it's abstract.
They don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the good news is the body really is a bloody miracle. So it doesn't matter what age we start doing things to live from a place of prevention, the body will respond. So you
Yeah.
are 100% influencing your body for the next 50 years. So keep
Mm.
doing what you're doing. Yeah.
I
Um,
think there's something weird about now sort of going to the gym as a form of medicine, which I never had treated it like that before. But the more conversations I heard from doctors talking about the benefits of resistance training, I'm just like, oh, this is not a drill. Like, you really have to take that on if you want to have a good life expectancy. And it's not just living a long time, but having healthy years and more healthy years towards the end of your life rather than, being infirm or something like that. So, yeah, it's an interesting sort of mind shift.
yeah, I remember learning when I was first studying to be a naturopath about preventing Alzheimer's, keeping lean muscle,
Mm.
literally just to be able to squeeze your circulatory system to pump blood to your brain because your head, oh, look, Zoom just did something fun.
Oh,
For those playing on YouTube, I just have fireworks around my head. Ooh, there you go. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, but because our head's above our heart, and we need muscle as we age, at any age, to keep pumping blood to our brain. I learned that 30 years ago. Did I take it with the same amount of importance? I definitely did the same amount of importance as I do nowadays. No, because I was younger
mm.
and the rebel, and I'm thinking, nah, it's all good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I take it very seriously. Yeah, it's very real. Mm.
100%.
So you are a really intuitive woman. We live in a logical data world. How do you tap into your intuition, to find your next moves in life? The universe has given you, hey, here's perimenopause, do this, and now writing books and different topics. How do you tap into because I remember from when I met you, you oozed that vibe.
Wow, thank you. It's an interesting thing because I want to say I'm tuning into how something feels, but I don't think it's as straightforward as that because, sometimes I'll see a meme or something online and it'll say, if it feels off, it is, trust your gut. It's just like, no, just a sec. We have to know that we're listening to our gut instinct rather than our gut fears, and sometimes those two voices or sensations can feel the same. So we have to make sure that we're actually tracking the right um, internal data. So I think that where I end up is usually an indicator of what I'm meant to be doing. You know, if I'm, say, with the perimenopause stuff, there was a lot of hand wringing about whether I should dare to put any material out there, put content online about it. But oh, here I am again, sort of doing a recording something, and I seem to be putting it on Instagram again, you know, so even though there was fear around it, it felt like the right thing to do. Um, and equally letting things go as well. When it, like, you know, we met in LA and I was living there at the time. And later that year, and I don't know actually if that workshop that we did had anything to do with it, but I let go of being there. When I'd arrived in LA, I had high ideas about, you know, what was going to happen. I expected Steven Spielberg to meet me off the plane. He didn't, his loss, you know, but I really genuinely,
You were manifesting. Yeah.
I thought it was all going to happen. And I got something else from being there, but I didn't get this sort of quite the tr career trajectory that I got that I wanted. But I listened to what was going on inside to say, "Oh, your time is complete here. It's time to go home." And I've never once regretted that decision. I don't. So if you are able, if one is able to sort of track that internal those internal pointers. I think of the heart as a compass, and that it, you know, you want it to be navigating towards your true north, which will tell you what you're meant to be doing next. But it's just getting the ability to listen, I guess, and trust the choices that you make based off of what you hear.
Oh, I like that. That's really cool. So you're 50, Andy. What?
53.
Sorry, you're 53.
Yeah,
They're
man.
magical numbers, aren't they? I love them. What? Okay, so at this age in life, what's one thing you've realized since turning 53 that you actually prefer over your younger years?
Jen, I'm gonna say pretty much everything.
Mm.
There's I mean, sure, I could do without the aches and pains, right? But they bring with them a consciousness about well-being that about really about well-being, not about looks, looking a particular way, looking healthy, looking thin, or whatever it is, about being healthy, being strong. Like I set an intention for myself that I want to have a strong body, not a thin body. And so even that, there are gifts that come with the aches and pains because it's made me much more aware of my own well-being and what I can do to intervene. So for example, like a couple of years ago, I just stopped drinking alcohol. I think I've had like 3 drinks or something like since then. And it's purely a well-being thing of I can see this isn't serving me, and at least while I'm in perimenopause, it's not going to help. It's not going to add in any way. And that's given me the opportunity to deal with social anxiety and find out who I am or who I can be in situations without that sort of social lubricant of alcohol. So, and I'm calmer as well, I would say,
Mm.
than I was previously, more emotionally regulated. So I'm able to navigate the world with a little bit more grace, a lot more grace actually than I did in my sort of 20s and 30s, I would say. And 40s was probably the start of becoming whatever I am today. But yeah, certainly my earlier years, I was just a pain quite a lot of the time.
We're interesting when we're younger.
Aren't we just? Aren't we just?
So for, a perimenopause woman who's listening to this, and feels like she's lost that spark and bit of the start of all that stuff. What's
Mm.
um what's one wellness or vitality solution that's been a game changer for you? What's if you had to think, what's one that first comes to mind that's been a biggest game changer?
I'm gonna say. Well, I mean, the biggest game changer for me has been HRT. So
Mm.
I started taking systemic HRT probably about 2 years ago, and that took the edge off a lot of symptoms. Didn't get rid of them completely, but outside of that, I would say it's creatine.
Yeah.
That's been massive. And it's weird because I just took it because I did, one of these high rocks thingies. I had that booked in the diary. So these sort of fitness competitions. And I did it because me and a mate were going to do it. And so, it was going to be a bit of fun or whatever. And then I'd seen some things pop up on my whatever and on my timeline and Diary of a CEO talking about it as they're always talking about various supplements. And so I thought, oh, it's great for training. So that's why I started taking it. And probably after about 2 or 3 months, I noticed that I wasn't just collapsing at the weekend in the way that I previously had. I mean, like I was so exhausted. I didn't even realize quite how tired I was. That come Saturday, the best I could do is walk the dog, maybe cook some lunch, and then I'd be dead for the rest of the afternoon. Walk the dog again. And Sunday was pretty much the same. So I found it quite difficult to make plans at the weekend because I was just, or if I did, I was just so tired.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly realized, like, oh, look at you going out,
Heck
meeting
yeah.
friends on a Saturday. But it really sort of crept up on me, and I was like, this has got to be the creatine because nothing else has changed. Really, I wasn't really taking any other supplements, and then started, hearing more about the impact that it can have across the whole body, on the brain and stuff. So that's been a regular. That's sort of a regular installment now in my sort of supplements. Um, yeah, that's probably, I would say that is the biggest deal right now because the tiredness was just because if you're still an ambitious person and you still want cool things for yourself, but you haven't got the energy to achieve any of those things, that can get you quite down. I mean, there is also a conversation to be had about, oh, well, should you be revising what you're doing? Should you let go of being able to achieve all these things? And there's it's probably a balance, but I didn't I didn't want to stop. I wanted to be able to do
Yeah.
cool
We don't
stuff.
have to turn into little old ladies. We
No,
can
that's
still
it.
be. And part of aging is there's so many studies around that we need that purpose, that thing. That's part of what just keeps us, that being engaged in life versus laying around all weekend because you're exhausted is it's so important for our mental health. That kind of stuff is aging, I think is vital. So yeah, being engaged in life.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that I think would probably be the thing
Mm.
that I would name is the creatine. That's made an enormous difference.
I agree. I think it's an epic supplement that's underused, particularly by women at this time, but it's just going to get more airplay. Very cool. All right. So I want to respect your time. What have we not talked about yet that you want to get on your soapbox about? Or you
Gosh,
need to talk into? What calls you?
that's really interesting. I mean, to be honest, it was the housing thing and perimenopause. Those are the things that are most present in my mind. But also, I suppose like I'm putting together a writing program, and when I was working with a coach talking about why I want to do this, and it's really because I have so many conversations with people who say, I've got a great idea for a story, and I'll be like, how much have you written? Have you started? And like, no. And there's this real fear around starting. And I think that people tell themselves lots of things like, I don't have the skills for it, or what if it's not very good, or I'm scared to put myself out there like that. And, my course aside, I just want to empower people to to really just tell their story because particularly if they're from any kind of group where you don't see yourself represented in the storytelling space because the storytelling space has looked pretty monocultured for a really long time. And then all the other stuff gets its own little section in the bookstore. I don't know if what it's like in Australia, but like,
Same. Same. It's terrible.
right. So like for example, I mean, I didn't even question that books by Black authors had its own section in Waterstones, which is our sort of main book retailer.
That's wrong. I
So
don't
that
see
that
that. I don't see that here. However,
That
it's
this is back in the day.
dominantly bloody white. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and also, I mean, I suppose you want to represent the proportional culture that is there anyways, but still, I mean, the black section of books was back in the day. It's not like that necessarily now. But yeah, when I was sort of in my 20s, it would not be odd to go into a bookstore and just see one shelf that was dedicated to black writing and everything else would be from, white authors. But even with gay literature as well,
oh
it'd be the
yeah.
same kind of thing, Asian
Gay's
or whatever.
always been separate. That shit's still separate.
Yeah.
As a big
And
old
it's
dyke, that pisses me off. Yeah,
Well, and it should do because
yeah,
it's insane. It's like, why isn't that just considered literature?
agree.
Yes, you want to make sure that there's representation across the. So anyway, my point is that
Yes.
if anybody feels that they are from a group where they don't see characters that look like them, behave like them, know about their social groups, their cultural groups, whatever it may be, write that story because rather than expecting some well-known author or whatever they won't know that world unless they're from it, but you do. So I want to encourage people who have stories to tell where they feel like they've been left out of the storytelling space to write the thing, because the thing is, once you write a book, either you pitch it and it gets sold, or you pitch it and it doesn't, or you don't pitch it, but then that might give you the bug to write another one. And so then now there'll be two books
Mm.
potentially from that cultural space. And that will give people from that space the opportunity to be seen as well. So it's a really important contribution, not just for your own creativity, but for people who look like you, behave like you, know the world that you're talking about, to feel seen.
Yeah, I love it. So you're creating a course to help people step into
Yeah,
that?
I'm still working on it. So I want to
Okay.
design it so that it can, yeah, wrap its arms around everybody and give them tools, but also empower. So I just want to take some time to work out exactly what that needs to look like rather than just rush to
Chuck
give
it out there.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, I want it to be more than just a how to. I want to have people feel their own creativity in it as well. So I'm taking my time with putting it together.
So if you are listening to this and you've got a story in you, follow Andi so that when she does launch this, you can check it out. Yeah. And also, if you could go back to your 18-year-old self
Jen,
and
she won't listen.
whisper something in your ear, I know the rebel in you wouldn't want to listen. However, what would you whisper in the ear of your 18-year-old self?
The words that came were calm down, not in a judgment way, but I think that's the only thing that she would have heard. Yeah, something like that, because I was so like just navigating by whatever reactive emotional state I was in, or that's what it felt like. And I'd have these little flashes of wisdom, and then it sort of disappear under this maelstrom of emotion and energy. And yeah, if she could just calm down,
Mm,
it might be okay.
wise words. I have loved chatting to you today. Thank
Oh, me too.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I really encourage everybody to check out what Andi's up to. Check out her books. Your new one is my next audiobook, without a doubt.
Huzzah.
One of the biggest things I learned from Marianne Williamson, and for any of you listening who just think, no, I just do like nonfiction, serious stuff all the time. One of the biggest things I learned from that retreat that we both did was, because it was all about the masculine and feminine, it was like I was only learn all the time. And she said, when you do that, you lose your creativity. So now I'll do nonfiction, fiction, nonfiction, fiction, to make sure I keep just nurturing that feminine creativity in my spirit. It was a great learning from her on that.
I remember her saying that because she was saying that sometimes you can learn as much from
Yeah.
from literature as you can from a sort of non-fiction, something that's there for more explicitly like educational. And so I went off and I bought Pride and Prejudice because she said I still
Yeah,
haven't read it.
it
So I'm like, I
changed.
bought it.
Yeah, I've been doing it different. And with audiobooks, because I feel the emotion of the person speaking it, it's a
Mm.
novel read on an audiobook has been transformational for me. I've been amazing. Instead of me just using my voice when I read it, you hear yourself kind of read. I hear myself read. Is that strange? Anyway, but here having an audiobook like you reading yours, it's a game changer. It's been a game changer
I have
for me.
never listened to an audiobook. I am gonna have to try it.
I love it. And I'm ADHD, like fucking keep up with my brain if you can. So I've had to
Uh-huh.
teach myself how to do it. However, now I way prefer audiobooks. I get so much more out of them because I feel them more.
Yeah,
For
yeah, yeah.
real. It's been great.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get because when you're an author as well, you want to be reading and staying across what's coming up, but you obviously writing takes up so much time that it's sometimes difficult. But I feel like audiobooks could be a way in. I love that.
I've only done that, yeah, in the last couple of years, and it's
Mm,
been so good. Oh, books are more delicious. I know.
I love that,
Can't
aren't
wait
they?
to listen to you chick.
Yay!
Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Oh,
You're a
I
gorgeous soul on
appreciate
this
you.
planet, and I'm honored to know you.
Well, I appreciate you, Jen, and it's been such a blessing that we've met, that we've stayed connected all this time, and then we've got to do this. I just love, love, love everything you're doing, and yeah, just more power to you.
Thank you. More power to all the women on the planet.
There we are.